Before we return to the world of Milo and Zeff, I want to share a short reflection with you. Every so often, someone tells me a story from their life that carries a deeper teaching. Not a teaching of philosophy or belief, but a teaching of surrender. A teaching of what becomes visible when the body stops grasping for survival. Recently, I heard a story like that. It spoke of a moment when a person reached the very edge of their strength, released their hold on life, and in that softening, something luminous appeared. It wasn't a dream, not a hope, but a quiet visitation, a reminder that love is woven deeper than the mind can understand. It stayed with me, and I realized it belongs in the unfolding of our woodland teachings, in Zeff's journey. In this episode, Zeff returns to Milo after many moons of solitude. And what he shares is not just a tale from his past, but a moment that changed him from a seeker into someone who finally learned how to rest, how to trust, and how to let the living current of life hold him. This is a story about surrender and the love that remains when everything else falls away. Let's begin. The seasons had turned many times since Zeff first wandered into the deep forest to begin his solitary practice. At the elder tree, Milo often wondered about him, the tender-hearted chipmunk who had come seeking peace, but carried so much fear inside. Zeff had left with sincerity, and sincerity always draws the living current closer. One early morning, as the first pale light touched the clearing, Milo heard soft footsteps approaching along the mossy path. Zeff had returned. He looked thinner, perhaps, but steadier, his eyes holding a quiet depth Milo had not seen before. He bowed, and Milo nodded, welcoming him without a word. The silence between the two of them felt full, like a bowl of still water. When Zeff finally sat beside him, his voice was gentle. "Milo, something happened while I was away. Before I ever reached the quiet place you live inside yourself, I went through a very hard night." Milo gestured for Zeff to continue. Zeff took a deep breath. "I had wandered far, too far, and became sick. It was fever, chills, weakness. I'll tell you, I felt more alone than ever. I had built a small hut out of bark and branches beside the aspens and close to the riverbank. I remember thinking that if I died there, at least it would be peaceful. An herbal healer mouse, Old Fern, had found Zeff during one of her rounds. She brought poultices and teas and laid cool leaves on his forehead and wrapped him in a woven blanket. Zeff said, Old Fern looked at me with sad eyes and she said, Little Zeff, I do not know if you're going to remain in this world or pass on to the next. But you just rest now and let your body decide. That night, Zeff had looked down at his paws. I was so tired, Milo. Not just tired from the sickness, but tired from seeking. I was tired from trying to be brave, trying to be liked, trying to matter in this world. He exhaled softly. But that night, in the dim light of Old Fern's candle, I finally whispered, If it's my time to go, then I surrender. I meant it, Milo. I released my hold on life, and I stopped resisting. Zeff paused for a moment, his eyes growing distant, and then he continued, and that was when it happened. What had happened was, at the foot of his sleeping mat, two slender columns of pale, luminous light appeared, not with faces or bodies, but as soft, living presence. I knew them, Milo. I didn't know them by sight, but by feeling. One held the steady strength of my father, and the other carried the gentle warmth of my mother. They were no longer a pair, you see, no longer defined by this old world. They were just two loving beings returning to me in their pure essence. Zeff explained that they did not speak with voices, but had directly spoken to his heart. They told me, You're going to live, little one. And then they said, Remember, the love bonds that you form in your life are all that matter. Zeff's voice began to tremble. I wanted to ask them so much why I had always been afraid, why I always felt so small, why did life always feel so heavy. But they just simply radiated tenderness, and they said to me, That's too much to understand. You just remember that love is enough. And then, as gently as these lights had come, they dissolved back into the living current, leaving Zeff enveloped in a warmth he had never felt before. Milo, The moment they left, my fever broke. And then Zeff said softly, after that, I fell asleep, and by morning, I could stand again. That morning, Old Fern visited later, and she said to him, child, sometimes the body heals when the spirit stops clinging. And Zeff realized it was true. He looked into Milo's eyes. That night changed me. That night I stopped searching for answers. I stopped chasing for meaning. 'Cause something inside me became quiet. I began to see that love, real love, was the ground beneath everything. That was when I really felt ready to return to you. As Milo listened, within complete stillness, he closed his eyes for a moment, and then he spoke. Zeff, you received a teaching that many seek their whole lives. And you received it because you surrendered, not from defeat, but from truth. When you stopped clinging to life, your nervous system opened. And in that opening, you perceived what is always here. The living current of love that surrounds all creatures. Milo's voice softened. Your parents did not appear because you were special. They appeared because you finally became still enough to hear them. He leaned closer. And what you saw was not the afterlife. It was the deeper life. The life beneath fear. Milo held his gaze, looked gently into Zeff's eyes. And he placed a paw gently over Zeff's. The love bonds you felt, they are not memories. They are threads of connection that continue beyond time. And when we stop grasping, that is when the unseen world becomes visible. When we stop fearing, the current reveals its tenderness. Milo bowed his head. My friend, you are not the same chipmunk who left here. You have met the truth in the wilderness. Now you can walk the quiet path, not as one who seeks, but as one who knows directly. And with eyes half closed, Milo offered the teaching like a blessing. When the heart lets go, love carries us and shows us we are never alone.